Yeah, no, I
There's
agree.
there's no progression. It's just the shame.
No,
They
and I
hide it and
agree.
they lock it away inside and they never share with anyone.
And then they're either, they're affected they're affected by it every day in their everyday lives, whether it be the way they treat people,
The way they treat
the way
themselves.
they think about I was getting there, the way they think about themselves, or they treat themselves, choose abusive relationships. It could be, the list is a mile fucking long. I just think in the black community, it's a lot of just, oh, let's just go to the church and pray about it. Like,
If you even get to that point.
Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, I feel like a lot of people, well, not a lot, the people that do end up telling somebody, and that adult's answer is, oh, let's go to the church and pray about it, instead of going to go get your child or your whatever, your family person, some fucking real help. Like, you're a part of the fucking problem. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna pretend, because I'm not saying praying doesn't work. I'm not saying I don't believe in God and all of that, but there's only so much of that shit that you can do. You actually have to work through these feelings. Like, you have to figure out how to pull yourself
that shit.
out of, yeah, because I mean, I could imagine that would take you to a very dark place, and you have to find a way to pull yourself out of there. And I'm sorry, but Jesus, Jesus, Jesus all day long with a mother.
Because you're never.
Calm down.
I know y'all know I always say this, but when stuff happens to you, I really feel like in order to heal from it, you have to just lay it all out.
Fucking own it.
Feel all of it.
Yeah.
And then just say, this happened. This is part of me. I still love me.
And I'm
still
good.
okay. It's just something that I dealt with.
Right.
Because, and those are that's for people who maybe say, oh, I don't need counseling. Okay, maybe you don't want to go, but you still need to feel all that shit. And that's what a therapist or a counselor can help you do. Because a lot of times you don't even know how to unlock all that misery that you have inside.
And just the dark fucking place. And like Danielle said, going to therapy is just such a taboo fucking conversation in the black community. It's like, stop. Like, you're not doing this shit for anybody else. If the case is you don't want anybody to know that you're going to counseling, then take your ass on by yourself and just go talk to somebody. And if it's that serious, find you a black counselor. If you're a woman, find a black female one that's your age range. If you're a man, find a black man that's your age range and go talk to them. Like, hey, I just want to talk man to man. Whatever the fuck you have to do. But at the end of the day, like, this shit is not about being public or being out in the open about what happened to you and whatever. It's literally about you healing yourself on the inside,
right?
Like,
even if
and
you just
being
talk
okay.
to you about it, you talk to your therapist, your counselor, and then just repeat it back to yourself. You don't have to share it with your family. But here's what I'll say about therapy being taboo. What also is taboo is sometimes talking about sex. And that kind of leads children into those situations because you don't know when somebody is hurting you when you're little like that. If nobody ever talks to you about your private parts or, what to keep to yourself or what, you know what I mean?
Nobody should ever touch this or, yeah.
And people want to use little funny, cute names for shit. No.
Oh, bitch, you got me angry right now.
You know what I mean? Like talk
boiling.
about, that's your vagina and nobody touches it. And that's like me and Michaela, we have straight up talks about it.
Oh, I have too.
And because it's not just family, it's not just outsiders. Anybody could hurt your child. To somebody at school, you know what I mean? So it's like, I want her to be able to, and Terrence too, I want them to be able to come to me if something happens because I wasn't able to talk to my mom about what happened to me because, first of all, I didn't know what the fuck it was.
And you probably didn't know it was wrong.
No,
or
I knew I didn't like what it felt like. And I told her, I don't want to go back over there. And I think she knew when I said that something had happened. But she just didn't know how to say it to me. Because when I talked to her about it as an adult, she said, well, I kind of felt like something was wrong when you said you didn't want to go back over there. You know what I mean? So I think, like I said before, the communication just among us, period, is part of a problem.
Well, I mean, a lot of times children don't know the language. They don't know how to express and say something is wrong or whatever. In the book that we're reading, Charlemagne talks about how how in his cousin's wife, I believe, used to make him suck her titties. And he was like 8, I think he said he was 8 or something. And he thought that it was okay because he wanted to suck titties, but I mean, it was to the point where he was like, but why? Like, this really is not really okay. But he didn't tell anybody about it or whatever. The way that he sort of got out of doing it, like, or reason why he stopped doing it is because she got a Jheri curl and he didn't like the smell. Like,
I'm not coming to your house sucking your titties no more because your shit is ugly.
But she was supposed to have been caring for him when he got out of school.
A trusted person.
Right. You know what I mean? But he did not know how to say that is something that was happening to him.
But that goes back to not having them discussions about what is sexual and what is appropriate and stuff like that. Because all you have to say is if anybody asks you to touch them here, or they touch you here or here, you need to tell me. First thing, such and such had my mouth on her titty.
Right.
Instead of, don't go over there, but you never say why.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you're not giving enough information because that's going to make kids go, well, shit, I wonder what's over there.
Yeah.
But then you also have to remember, as in children's defense, that a lot of times adults tell them, don't tell, you're going to get in trouble, somebody's going to be mad at you. And so on top of the abuse, they lay guilt on top of them. You know what I mean?
I'll kill your mom or
you know what I mean? So then they feel like they have to do it, So I mean that is exactly why it is important to have these talks with your children. But I mean, I just want to stress, I know we're talking about, sexual abuse, but it's not just sexual abuse in the Black community that people have to keep stuff, on wraps. You know what I mean? Like,
no, it's just like physical abuse among relationship partners.
Shit, yeah.
Like you don't want to have anybody else in your business because you don't want anybody else telling you. You don't want anybody else knowing what's going on in your house.
Because you're ashamed and
you want to have this picture perfect life on the outside or whatever. Because I don't want to make any mistakes about it. That abuse is not like just in the Black community. Abuse is abuse or whatever. White people abuse each other, Indians, whatever. No. But I mean, specific to the Black community, there's just a level of secrecy on top of it to where it's like you can't talk about these things. Yeah. And then in like the tweet, it's like, oh, I hope she's not brown because she shouldn't be saying this stuff because it's going to make us look bad.
First of all, I am not you. And if you beat your bitch about the neck and shoulders, that's on you.
I don't give a fuck. Yeah.
But it's just another way. It's just another form of victim shaming, though, because
it is.
So it's like you need to be ashamed of what happened because you had some part in it, or whatever, and you need to own your part. Yeah. Versus why is this person being a predator? Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, in our community, we don't necessarily see it that way. Because we're already concerned. We're just concerned about how we look.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
I mean, I would like to say that I'm not ever concerned about that, but that's not true. Like you said, like sometimes I am concerned about how I look like, but it don't have nothing to do with me necessarily so much as it has to do with the way others view me.
It's the same thing. Yeah.
Well, if I'm okay with my decision, and I'm like, I'm going to come out and say how I feel about XYZ. And I say it. And one person shows up and says, hey, don't do that because it ain't everybody's business. What the. So that makes me go, well, maybe I shouldn't be talking about my truth or whatever.
It shouldn't, though. But I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I don't think I agree.
So I feel like a lot
exactly
of the time, like you said, it's just the judgment from outsiders that stops us from being able to say, hey, this happened, or,
But if you really own your truth and own, what's going on with you, do you really give a shit about how somebody else thinks? Because I'm going to be honest. Like, there are things about me that I'm not necessarily going to just put out there. But if it happens, if it comes out there, like, I really don't give a shit about what somebody else thinks about it. And it's almost kind of like funny because I was just thinking in my head how in one group I mentioned my son. Like, I don't I don't talk about my son on social media because my social media is my social media. You know, because so to me it's about me, it's not about my son. And so one guy was just like, I had no idea you had a child. You know what I mean? Like, because that's not something that
something I bring up.
That I talk about. Like, I mean, if I talk about it amongst friends, I talk about it amongst friends, but it's not something that I'm just regularly putting out on social media. Like, oh, he did this or he did that, or I post pictures with me and him. Like, I don't do that. I mean, I really just post like selfies of myself or whatever. I post an occasional picture with him, but that's besides the point. Anyway, my point is that, you know, like if something comes out about me, I own it. You know, it's me. Like, I don't really give a shit what you think about it. Yeah, this shit fucking happened or whatever. Like, it is what it is. Like, I just cannot make myself be concerned with what somebody else thinks of me.
Yeah, but that's social media and not as serious as somebody being like sexually attacked or like, you know, violated or whatever. That's a whole other kind of shame. That's a whole other, and I'm only saying this because of a very close friend that I have that went through all of this. She didn't want anybody to know. She wanted to just hide in the house so all her physical bruises and stuff were gone, all of this. And I was like, bitch, fuck that. We're telling everybody. Like, I'm not everybody, but I'm telling the right fucking people because something needs to be done about it. 1. 2, you need to go to a doctor and literally just get checked for everything. And 3, like, don't keep this. It's going to break your mother's heart, but your mother needs to know this shit. Like, and she needs to feel like she can do something to help you and protect you because your parents are always going to know if the smallest little thing is off about you. I feel like your mom is always going to know. Yeah. Like, I feel like you would know if something was, like, a little off with Michaela or Terrence. Like, you would be like, what's going on with you? No, I'm telling. I know.
Like the simplest thing, like somebody could have been mean at school, something.
No, yeah. Why are you quiet in the car? Because usually you screaming your head off. What's going on? Right. But I just feel like that being that caring about what other people think because you're feeling like that makes you look bad as a person, and it's nothing that you did. It's the person that did that to you. That's the fucking monster.
Being vulnerable with your kids, with your parents. You know what I mean? If I had just been, because I'm super open with my mom now, but then
you weren't at that level yet.
I think I was maybe 5 or something, and then not having talked about sex at all, and even when my sister started having kids, like we still didn't talk about sex.
5.
Mm-hmm. So it was like I didn't like y'all said, I didn't know what to say. I didn't know the verbiage for it. Because even when my sister started dating and having kids, because it was pretty much right after that, we still didn't know what sex really was. It was just like, oh, you're pregnant. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think, like Danielle said, I know I keep talking about sex abuse, but I feel like that's just one of the major secrets among our community. Is
absolutely.
Like, you know what? I'll say this. Like, my uncle sold drugs. Uh-huh. And... Like,
are you laughing at me because I said
No, I'm laughing at her.
Like, I mean, it was a well-known thing in my family that he sold drugs, but nobody talked about it. You know, like when I remember the first time he came to Shreveport, where I'm originally from, like it was just like, oh, this is Uncle Larry. He's coming. You know, we hanging out. He's going and buying a whole bunch of stuff or whatever. You know, I had never even known him because he always lived in Houston.
Mm-hmm. Or in prison?
No, he wasn't.
Never got locked up?
He got locked up after I came here. Oh. And I knew him. But beforehand, he actually worked God, I want to say he was like a welder or something, but he made like good money.
So he had a really good trade.
So he had a job also.
He had a job. He had a really good trade, but he was pushing major weight. Like seriously, like he was making a lot of money to the point where like somebody snitched on him, and they
snitched.
Yeah, they did. They snitched on him.
Someone reported him to the police.
It was a crackhead.
Yeah, because he probably wouldn't give him no credit.
And, you know, they took like, I want to say like it was close to like $60,000, $70,000 in the safe that he had. I mean, that's not even accounting for other money that he had elsewhere. That was just in this one particular house or whatever, you know.
Bitch.
So, I mean, we're talking about, you know, sexual abuse, but nobody in my family talked about the fact that this man sold drugs.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. And it's just like people like to pretend like such and such is
like in real life.
You know what I mean? And he was going to church and stuff, like, you know what I mean? Like it was
Praise
nothing.
the Lord.
Like
run me that coke.
When
stop playing with me.
do drugs, you're like, oh, such and such is sick. But really, that person smokes crack.